Hello everyone, welcome to Pikeville History Moments, where we talk about the history and heritage of Pikeville, Kentucky and the surrounding area. Daniel Boone is perhaps the most famous of our country's early pioneers and was a key figure in the settlement of Kentucky, particularly the bluegrass region. But his first steps into Kentucky were in Pike County. We all know the stories about Daniel Boone and how he led settlers through the Cumberland Gap in 1775, blazing the trail that would become known as the Wilderness Road. Even fewer people know that he'd traveled that route before when he crossed the gap in 1769 to begin a 2-year scouting and hunting trip. Boone had been hearing tales about the fertile bluegrass region of Kentucky for years. In the autumn of 1767, he set out to see it for himself. He left his home in the Yadkin River Valley in North Carolina with 2 companions. They are thought to have been his brother, Squire, and a neighbor, William Hill. The 3 men traveled northeast, crossing the Clinch and Powell Rivers and the Blue Ridge Mountains. They followed a route that's more or less the same as today's Virginia Highway 80 until they came upon the headwaters of the Russell Fork of the Big Sandy River. Following this river a little way downstream, they came upon a wonder of nature that was not quite the easy path through the Appalachian Mountains that they'd been hoping to find. They found a break in the mountains all right, but they must have known instantly that it would not serve as a pathway for the masses they'd sought. Instead, the canyon Boone is credited with naming the breaks runs 5 miles through the heart of Pine Mountain. What Boone had discovered was a canyon featuring nearly vertical cliffs, ranging from about 200 feet to over 1,000 feet in height. It would be the largest canyon east of the Mississippi River. The river was a maze of rapids and waterfalls, lined with cliffs and house-sized boulders. It is reported the party turned back after they found the extreme terrain along the river was too difficult for any navigable travel. Instead, they climbed Pine Mountain to the ridge at a point overlooking a drainage called Pond Fork that empties into Elkhorn Creek. It is there on a high knob on the top of Pine Mountain that Boone looked to the west and first saw what would someday become Kentucky. Boone and his party were rightly convinced that the river below them would run north to the Ohio River, which offered access to the fertile farmlands they sought. So from the mountaintop near the breaks, they descended down into Elkhorn Creek, followed it downstream a little over a mile, and found themselves back on the Russell Fork at what's now Elkhorn City. From there, they followed the river to where it merges with the Levisa Fork of the Big Sandy, and then to the bottomland that would become Pikeville, then further still to Prestonsburg. It's there that they are said to have found a buffalo trail and followed it up the left fork of Middle Creek to a salt spring. Around that time, a snowstorm hit, and they decided that they would be there for the winter. Survival might have been challenging, but the salt spring proved a lifeline. The spring drew wildlife from miles around and provided ample hunting opportunities that winter. It's at that spot where Daniel Boone is said to have both seen and killed his first bison. As it says on the marker located at the site, thus their scant supply of ammunition and food was conserved, and this salt lick probably played an important part in saving the lives of the woodsmen. When spring arrived, they made their way home on nearly the same path they had used to discover the breaks. They made it back to the Yadkin River Valley after a round trip of well over 400 miles. This would not be the last time Boone would see these hills. Join us for part 2 of this series on Daniel Boone to learn about the role he would play in the establishment of the first permanent settlement in what would become Pike County. We'll also talk about how he seems to have been a frequent visitor for years to come. Thank you for watching Pikeville History Moments. Please hit like and subscribe. And if you're going to be in the area, take a trip to the Breaks Interstate Park or stop by downtown Pikeville and visit the Big Sandy Heritage Center Museum.